Hello, everyone. Thanks very much again for joining us today. I'm here today with Ayla from our Uganda Development Studies program. Ayla, would you like to take a moment to introduce yourself?
Sure. My name is Ayla Bonfiglio. I am currently a doctoral fellow at the United Nations University Merit and Maastricht University at Maastricht in the Netherlands. And I did the SIT Uganda program in 2008 while I was studying abroad from Columbia University. And I finished Columbia in 2009, and I was also at the University of Oxford for my master's following that.
Thank you very much. And this is a wonderful connection all the way from Brattleboro to Nairobi. Let's use it while we can. So I want to ask you, what led you to choose our Uganda Development Studies program? What appealed to you about the program?
Sure. I actually didn't choose the Uganda program. It's a bit of a strange story. So I applied to study abroad during a time when I was really interested in international development work, but also the environment. So I actually applied to SIT's Kenya program, but at that time it was January 2008, and it was when the election crisis happened in Kenya. So the program was on the brink of being cancelled, and I, along with a few other students, decided to relocate to the Uganda program, which seemed like the closest match because it specialized in development work.
Okay, thanks very much. So if you could name for me one specific part of the program that in hindsight now really appealed to you, or at that time really appealed to you, what would it be?
Well, I would probably say that it was the practicum. It was the opportunity to do field work and really learn all aspects of field work, because while research methods courses at universities are important, they cover research methods usually in an abstract way. And through the SIT practicum, you really put in a sink or swim fieldwork situation where you have to apply for ethics approval, you have to design, you have to make a research design, you have to carry out research journaling and logistics planning and data collection. So these were all really quite wonderful and unique things to have experienced during the study abroad, and it in a way created a foundation that I then used during my master's and now during my PhD.
I'm very glad to hear that you've been able to use what you learned in the practicum process there in Uganda for further studies and so on. Now, you mentioned to me as we corresponded to set up this interview that you have been back to Uganda since then. Can you go into that a little bit more for me, what you did and when you went back?
Sure. So I've been back perhaps around 3 times now. So just to give a little bit of context, during the practicum I studied refugee self-reliance in camps, and I really kind of found a passion for doing refugee studies through the practicum experience, because at the time in Uganda, refugees were coming from the Congo, they were coming from Somalia, from South Sudan, and from Kenya because of the election crisis, in addition to Rwanda and Burundi. And I got a grant to return shortly after the program finished to carry out more fieldwork, in fact, a parallel study on refugees in urban areas. And that's what my senior honors thesis at Columbia was based on. And then following that, I used that same data set to do my master's fieldwork, my master's thesis rather, and I got an academic job at Oxford for 3 years following that. And a lot of my research at Oxford dealt with the region, because I had experience in the region. I got to continue to work on projects in the region. So I continued to do migration and refugee research. And now with a PhD, I've been back. I just finished a stint in Kampala that was 2 months, interviewing refugees now in higher education. And in fact, I reconnected with Charlotte Mafumbo, my former academic advisor, who to this day still gives me advice on carrying out fieldwork and negotiating the fieldwork scene. So yeah, I think now going forward, I'll always have the connection.
Yes, definitely. And Charlotte seems to be the most connected person in the city of Kampala. She was just here in Brattleboro, and she's trying to set up more connections, even more connections for our students that go to the program. Now, my next question for you is, um, what what would you say is one of the most unique aspects of an SIT program for you or for any of the prospective students out there who may be watching this?
Well, as I've already intimated, the practicum had a huge impact on me. So I would say that first and foremost, it's the opportunity to do real live field work and to be faced with situations of figuring out logistics and going through all these procedures of piloting and data collection and all of these invaluable research experiences. But there's not just one thing. A really unique thing about SIT, which is also a favorite experience of mine related to the program, is the homestay feature. So I lived with a family for my whole time in Uganda, and when I came back to do that grant research, I continued to live with the same family, and I visit them every time I come to Uganda. They're the Turiya Mureba family, and I keep in contact with them until this day, and living with them or living with a local family really gave me a chance to take everything that I was learning during the day, which was new and yeah, and difficult and challenging, and ingest it in the nighttime and still work with it. They taught me how to improve my Luganda. They taught me a lot of cultural things, or how to negotiate doing field work or doing work in Uganda. At the same time, they provided this protective family setting that really was invaluable to carrying out work and to maintaining my own mental health. And yeah, I don't see that other programs, or if you're just in a dormitory, that you could really go beyond being a tourist or even a visiting consultant. You really experience the place for what it is when you live with a family.
Thanks very much for that. Now, as we near the end, I usually like to ask my interviewees and my alumni here if you could tell the prospective students one thing that you would have liked to know as you were going through the application process, what would it be?
That's an interesting question. I'm not sure that there's anything that really was left out for me. Perhaps I would want to be informed more of what's in store for me, and it would simply be to reinforce my decision to study with SIT. For instance, the very fact that I would be out of a classroom, that this would not be the kind of study abroad program where you just go to another university. Yes, we had professors from Makerere teach us, but most of our learning took place at NGOs or out in the field, and it was a real experiential kind of learning experience, and that could be communicated more. Another is that through doing all of this, you actually get insight into what it would be like to be an academic or even to be a practitioner, because you're visiting NGOs. And so you get insight into potential career experiences, and you can see what you connect with or what you don't connect with. And then finally, I think SIT to a large extent already communicates this, but it's hard to convey just how much of an international experience you have when you are outside of the classroom, when you're staying with a family, when you're doing this practicum research, and perhaps in some way that could be that could, I mean, yeah, it could be communicated to students more.
Okay, well, thank you very much. We've come to the end of my questions today, but I always say, is there any last thing that I didn't cover that you would like to tell the students or anyone who's watching today?
just that don't lose out on study abroad wherever you decide to go. I'm an academic advisor now at the University College of Maastricht, and I now am advising students on how valuable studying abroad is. So wherever you choose to go, I would just recommend that you do it and that you really enjoy it, because in my case, it ended up affecting the rest of my educational and professional trajectory.
Thank you very much, and thank you for taking some time today. I know we have quite the time difference and distance between us, but I really appreciate you willing to talk with me a little bit, your willingness to talk with me a little bit, and I'll let you know once the video's finished and share it with you.
Yep, that would be great.
All right, you have a good afternoon then.
Thank you.